Hello and welcome from Kabul to this exclusive interview on Arabiya channel with the Afghan Foreign Minister Mohammed Hanif Atmar. What effort will you make for the success of the peace talks?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The Afghan government and people are committed to peace and are fully determined to do whatever we can to advance the peace goal. First, we have established a high peace council, an integrated and inclusive negotiating team, and then we recently held a lawyer jirga to remove all obstacles to the peace process. So the Afghan side has done everything possible so far to make sure that the peace agenda is fully delivered on. We have also been trying to work at international level to build international and regional consensus in support of the peace process. It's good to note that we have now regional consensus for the peace process, its success, and for the end state of the peace process.
So no obstacles or challenges in these talks?
There are certainly obstacles and challenges. There will be more of them. We've been trying to remove the obstacles that we knew of, the obstacles that were on the way to the start of the Afghan peace negotiation. So those obstacles have been removed. One of them was the release of the 5,000 Taliban's detainees and prisoners with the government of Afghanistan. And now that has been achieved, and we are hoping now that the Taliban would also deliver on their promise to start the peace process and the negotiation with the Afghan government. If there are new obstacles emerging on the way, which I suspect there will be, the people and the government of Afghanistan are fully determined to work together to remove those obstacles as well.
Are there any guarantees that the Taliban will not impose their ideas, their conditions on Afghan society after its return to power and the peace agreement?
That is exactly going to be the key topic for negotiations. The Taliban had two main issues. One was the departure of foreign troops from Afghanistan. That has been successfully negotiated, and there is an agreement which stipulates on conditional departure of foreign troops from Afghanistan. We Afghans have also insisted on the departure of all foreign fighters from Afghanistan, those that are fighting the government of Afghanistan. So there will have to be a reciprocity in this process. Now, second issue for the discussion and negotiation is the future of the Afghan state. Now, Taliban and the government of Afghanistan and people in the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan have one thing already agreed upon, that the state system will have to be an Islamic system. So there is no dispute over that. For us, as people of Afghanistan, the republic nature of the state is a must. It must be an Islamic republic of Afghanistan. So we will do everything we can through our political means to not only preserve the Islamic Republic, but also advance the core values and principles of that republic.
Do you expect interventions from some countries to obstruct the peace process?
We've been exactly for that reason trying to build not only national consensus for peace, but also regional and international consensus. that if there are countries that do not see their interests served by the peace process, they have to be engaged and they have to see their interests protected by a peaceful settlement in Afghanistan. So we are hoping and we strongly believe that peace in Afghanistan will be in the interest of every country, whether in our neighborhood or beyond. Peace in Afghanistan will help us stabilize the region, successfully fight international terrorism, and also make sure that economic connectivity and integration of the region happens. So this is in the best interest of everybody. We hope no country would find it against their interest to have peace in Afghanistan.
What are your priorities in the Foreign Ministry?
There are three overriding priorities for the foreign policy of the government of Afghanistan. It's peace, it's security, and it's economic growth and then poverty reduction. Now, to achieve these overriding priorities, it's also our priority to build not only national consensus, but also regional and international consensus to achieve those three priorities. Now, these three priorities are not just for Afghanistan. If we succeed in achieving these priorities as a region, we will all benefit. Peace will be in the interest of everybody. Peace in Afghanistan will serve the national security interest of every country in the region. Security will be key, a priority of every nation in the region. Now, if we make peace with the Taliban, Afghanistan will not be used by international terrorism, and that is in the interest of everybody in the region and beyond. Similarly, a peaceful Afghanistan will allow regional integration of economies, and that would create connectivities, and that would again serve every country in the region. So we are hoping that our priorities are also aligned to the priorities of our neighbors, the region, and the wider international community.
You resigned from your position as a national security advisor due to a dispute with President Ghani. And now you came back as Foreign Ministry. What has changed?
There were differences of views in the past, but I'm glad to say that we have now a solid agreement for peace and for preservation of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. He is a legitimate president of Afghanistan, and we are ready to work with him to achieve those noble goals of peace, stability, and prosperity in Afghanistan. So we are in fact working on the basis of an agreed program that will be the key bond among all of us. It's not just about me, it's about all other Afghan political actors and leaders who've come to now join the government and help the government. So yes, it's true, we all had some sort of disagreements in the past. Differences of view is quite natural to have, but it's important that we resolve those differences through legal, peaceful, political means, and then have the ability to come together and work for the greater cause and greater interest of the nation.
The main reason for leaving your position or post is that the government does not have a balance between its relation with the regional countries and with the Afghan partners in the world. How can you explain this?
The most important issue to pay attention to is that the key priority for Afghanistan and the region and the world community is stability in Afghanistan and in the region. That stability cannot happen without peace in Afghanistan. Now, peace cannot happen without national consensus, regional and international consensus. Now, this is the core understanding that if we are to bring peace to Afghanistan and security and stability for Afghanistan and the region and beyond, we have to have consensus in the region. Now, consensus cannot be built without good relations, without engagement. So every country must see their interest protected through the peace process and in the end state of the peace process. Now, we strongly believe that we have now an agreed policy which drives the diplomatic efforts of the government of Afghanistan.
So how will you work to strengthen Afghan diplomatic relations with the countries of the region and the world?
Engagement. Engagement, transparency, and open discussion over each other's concerns and reaching consensus on how to address those concerns and interests. That's at the core of our strategy. We have to work first with our neighbors and countries in the region. Second, we need to work with international actors. Now, what is it that will form the basis for the cooperation? It's common threats, common challenges, and shared interests. So we will base actually our cooperation on our shared interests with these countries. So what are these shared interests? Right now, the number one issue is security. Every country in this region is affected by terrorism in one way or another. And every country has an interest to cooperate with us.
What is the nature of the relationship that you want to build it with the GCC countries and the Arab world?
There are at least three bases for our work with the GCC countries and the wider Muslim world. First is our historic bonds that we have with these countries. We have a shared religion, shared history, and we will have a shared future. So on that basis, we will have to work with the GCC countries and with the rest of the Muslim world. Second is our common interests. With all the GCC countries and many other Muslim countries, we have three types of common interests. We have common interests in terms of security, and that's why peace in Afghanistan is in the interest of everybody. Second, we have common economic interests. Many of the GCC countries benefit from the work of Afghans that are there, and we also benefit because the Afghans are sending back remittances. We are also having a strong trade relations with many of the GCC countries, and we would very much like to promote more investment from the GCC countries in Afghanistan. For instance, one of the common areas that we need to work on is food security. Afghanistan has good land, good water, and good people, hard-working people. If we invest more in agriculture, the GCC countries will benefit because most of the GCC countries are importing food from elsewhere and from very far away. Many of them have interest in developing such investment schemes in Afghanistan, but of course many things depend on peace and stability, which we are working on. Finally, we have another common interest with the GCC countries, and as Muslims we do have a responsibility to work together for the greater interests of the Muslim world and beyond, frankly speaking. We do not believe in isolation from the rest of the world. Our approach is multilateralism, multi-alignment. So as a Muslim world, we can contribute to our shared civilization with the rest of the mankind. Now, these are our responsibilities to pursue in an honest and effective manner.
You were Minister of the Interior before. How do you see security in the country now?
Unfortunately, there is an increasing amount of violence throughout the country. If I compare the situation between now and when I was Minister of Interior, unfortunately, more people are being affected by the increasing level of violence. But another important difference these days is that more of the security challenges and responsibilities are borne by the Afghan National Security Forces. So in a way, the Afghan National Security Forces are doing more with less resources. Now, those changes are important to take note of, especially that we are demonstrating and doing that successfully to the world community, that Afghans are fighting on behalf of all of them against terrorism that is an enemy of every country in the region, as I said. So Afghans are now fighting on behalf of the region and the international community. And they are doing that with less resources. This means that the international community and the region have a good partner in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So if we bring peace between the Afghan government and the Taliban, we will all benefit from the greater cooperation for security.
Is the security problem in Afghanistan related to security policies or to the implementation of security strategies?
It's more about the resources. It's not so much a problem of policy at the moment. It's a problem of resources that we deploy for counterterrorism and security. As I said earlier, that Afghanistan is fighting almost 4 categories of insurgents and foreign fighters. Some of them are Afghans with whom we would like to make peace, i.e. the Taliban. Some of them are Pakistanis from the region, Central Asia, and even as far as China, and others are like Daesh and Al-Qaeda from all over the world. So we are fighting all of these insurgents in Afghanistan, and that is certainly requiring an awful amount of resources.
Where it's located, Daesh, and is it a threat for the peace talks?
Yes. Well, first, Daesh is now a global phenomenon. It's not just in Afghanistan, it's also in Pakistan, in the region. You see them mushrooming in different parts of the world. So we need to understand that this is not a localized problem, it is becoming an international problem. Second point, yes, they are certainly a threat to the peace process, because with peace in Afghanistan, Daesh will not be able to find a safe haven in Afghanistan. Neither Daesh nor any other terrorist group will be able to find a foothold in Afghanistan. That's why they're opposing the peace process. And that's why we are saying to our regional and international partners that if you assist Afghanistan with peace, in fact, you will be assisting yourself, because this will deny Daesh and international terrorism a sanctuary in the region.
You were also Minister of Education. What is your evaluation now for the education and especially for the women in Afghanistan?
Oh, we have made an enormous amount of progress in education, and especially for women. Afghanistan has never had more educated women than we have now. Afghanistan has never been able in its history to send more of its children, including girls, to schools as we are able to do that now. So it's an enormous amount of at least quantitative change and progress in education. But we need to invest more on the quality of education as well. And the quality of education directly depends on teachers and teacher training. So Afghanistan needs to invest more in teacher training, and especially female teachers training, which would also then have a positive impact on enrollment of girls into primary education, but also girls to pursue secondary and tertiary education.
What are your efforts to combat the corona pandemic?
Well, we are certainly looking at a range of public interventions to fight the corona virus pandemic. The number one issue is, of course, health services to the population. And number two is, of course, food security and life-sustaining services to the population. Luckily, the services have had a positive impact in containment and also saving the lives of our people. But key to this effort is also a humanitarian ceasefire, because that's why we are pushing so hard for reduction of violence and humanitarian ceasefire, to allow the government services to reach each and every corner of the country, to save lives and to enable our people to protect themselves.